Let's pretend my phone didn't run out of storage and I had to spend the last day uploading a bunch of stuff and deleting everything off my phone. And we're just going to continue lesson 1 here as though nothing happened. Okay, here we go. I had no idea what he was talking about. Quote, life pushes all of us around. Some people give up and others fight. A few learn the lesson and move on. They welcome life pushing them around. To those few it means that they need and want to learn something. They learn and move on. Most quit, and a few, like you, fight. Rich Dad stood and shut the creaky old wooden window that needed repair. If you learn this lesson, you will grow into a wise, wealthy, and happy young man. If you don't, you will spend your life blaming a job, low pay, and your boss for your problems. You'll live life always hoping for that big break that'll solve all of your money problems. Rich Dad looked at me to see if I was still listening. His eyes met mine. We stared at each other, communicating through our eyes. Finally, I looked away. I had absorbed his message. I knew he was right. I was blaming him, and I did ask to learn. I was fighting. Rich Dad continued. Or, if you're the kind of person who has no guts, you just give up every time life pushes you around. If you're the kind of person you'll live all your life playing it safe, doing the right things, saving yourself for some event that never happens, then you die a boring old man. You'll have lots of friends who really like you because you are such a nice, hardworking guy, but the truth is that you let life push you into submission. Deep down you were terrified of taking risks. You really wanted to win, but the fear of losing was greater than the excitement of winning. 20 years ago today, life as a teacher. Today's millennials are learning the hard facts of life. Jobs are harder to find, robots are replacing workers by the millions, and learning by making mistakes through trial and error is even more and more important. Book learning is proving to be less valuable in the real world. No longer does a college education guarantee a job. Deep inside, you and only you will know you didn't go for it. You chose to play it safe. Our eyes met again. You've been pushing me around? I asked. Some people might say that, smiled Rich Dad. I would say that I just gave you a taste of life. What taste of life? I asked, still angry but now curious and ready to learn. You boys are the first people who have ever asked me to teach them how to make money. I have more than 150 employees, and not one of them has asked me what I know about money. They ask me for a job and a paycheck, but never to teach them about money. So most will spend the best years of their lives working for money, not really understanding what it is they are working for. I sat there intently listening. So, when Mike told me you wanted to learn how to make money, I decided to design a course that mirrored real life. I could talk until I was blue in the face, but you wouldn't hear a thing. So I decided to let life push you around a bit, so you would hear me. That's why I only paid you 10 cents. So, what is the lesson I learned from only working for 10 cents an hour? I asked. That you're cheap and exploit your workers? Rich Dad rocked back and laughed heartedly. Finally he said, you'd best change your point of view. Stop blaming me and thinking I'm the problem. If you think I'm the problem, then you have to change me. If you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself, learn something and grow wiser. Most people want everyone else in the world to change but themselves. Let me tell you, it is easier to change yourself than everyone else. I don't understand, I said. Don't blame me for your problems, Rich Dad said, growing impatient. But you only paid me 10 cents. So, what are you learning? Rich Dad asked, smiling. That you're cheap, I said with a sly grin. See, you think I'm the problem, said Rich Dad. But you are. Well, keep that attitude and you'll learn nothing. Keep the attitude that I'm the problem, and what choices do you have? Well, if you don't pay me more or show me some respect and teach me, I'll quit. Well put, Rich Dad said. And that's exactly what most people do. They quit and go looking for another job, a better opportunity, and higher pay, actually thinking that this will solve the problem. In most cases, it won't. So what should I do? I asked. Just take the measly 10 cents an hour and smile? Rich Dad smiled. That's what the other people do. But that's all they do. Waiting for a raise, thinking that more money will solve their problems. Most just accept it, and some take a second job working harder, but again accepting a small paycheck. I sat staring at the floor, beginning to understand the lesson Rich Dad was presenting. I could sense it was a taste of life. Finally I looked up and asked, "So, what will solve the problem?" "This," he said, leaning forward in his chair and tapping me gently on the head. "The stuff between your ears." It was at this moment that Rich Dad shared the pivotal point of view that separated him from his employees and my poor dad, and led him to eventually become one of the richest men in Hawaii, while my highly educated but poor dad struggled financially all his life. It was a singular point of view that made all the difference over a lifetime. Rich Dad explained this point of view over and over, which I call lesson number 1. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. On that bright Saturday morning, I learned a completely different point of view from what I had been taught by my poor dad. At the age of 9, I understood that both dads wanted me to learn. Both dads encouraged me to study, but not the same things. 20 years ago, I'm going to do the little blurb here. I continue. 20 years ago today, assets over time. Buying or building assets that deliver cash flows, putting your money to work for you. High-paying jobs mean two things. You're working for money, and the taxes you pay will probably increase. I've learned to put my money to work for me and enjoy the tax benefits of generating income that doesn't come from a paycheck. My highly educated dad recommended that I do what he did. "Son, I want you to study hard, get good grades so you can find a secure, safe job with a big company, and make sure it has excellent benefits." My rich dad wanted me to learn how to make money so it could work for me. These lessons I would learn through life with his guidance, not because of the classroom. My rich dad continued my first lesson. "I'm glad you got angry about working for 10 cents an hour. If you hadn't got angry and had simply accepted it, I would have to tell you that I could not teach you. You see, true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. Anger is a big part of that formula, for passion is anger and love combined. When it comes to money, most people want to play it safe and feel secure, so passion does not direct them. Fear does." "So is that why they'll take jobs with low pay?" I asked. "Yes," said Rich Dad. "Some people say I exploit people because I don't pay as much as a sugar plantation or the government. I say the people exploit themselves. It's their fear, not mine." "But don't you feel like you should pay them more?" I asked. "I don't have to, and besides, the more money will not solve their problems. Just look at your dad. He makes a lot of money, but he still can't pay his bills. Most people give him more time, or give him more money. Most people give him more money will only get into more debt. So that's why the 10 cents an hour," I said, smiling. "It's part of the lesson." "That's right," smiled Rich Dad. "You see, your dad went to school and got an excellent education so he could get a high-paying job. But he still has money problems because he never learned anything about money in school. On top of that, he believes in working for money." "And you don't?" I asked. "No, not really," said Rich Dad. "If you want to learn to work for money, then stay in school. That is a great place to learn to do that. But if you want to learn how to have money work for you, then I will teach you that, but only if you want to learn." "Wouldn't everyone want to learn that?" I asked. "No," said Rich Dad, "simply because it's easy to learn to work for money, especially if fear is your primary emotion when the subject of money is discussed." "I don't understand," I said with a frown. "Don't worry about that for now. Just know that it's fear that keeps most people working at a job. The fear of not paying their bills, the fear of not being fired, the fear of not having enough money, and the fear of starting over. That's the price of studying to learn a profession or a trade, and then working for money. Most people become a slave to money, and then get angry at their boss." Learning to have money work for you is a completely different course of study, I asked. Absolutely, Rich Dad answered, absolutely. We sat in silence on that beautiful Hawaiian Saturday morning. My friends had just started their Little League baseball game, but for some reason I was now thankful I decided to work for 10 cents an hour. I sensed that I was about to learn something my friends wouldn't learn in school. Ready to learn? Asked Rich Dad. Absolutely, I said with a grin. I've kept my promise. I've been teaching you from afar, my Rich Dad said. At 9 years old, you've gotten a taste of what it feels like to work for money. Just multiply your last month by 50 years, and you have an idea of what most people spend their life doing. I don't understand, I said. How did you feel waiting in line to see me? Once to get hired, and once to ask for more money. Terrible, I said. If you choose to work for money, that is what life will be like, said Rich Dad. And how did you feel when Miss Martin dropped 3 dimes in your hand for 3 hours of work? I felt like it wasn't enough. It seemed like nothing. I was disappointed, I said. And that is how most employees feel when they look at their paychecks, especially after all the tax and other deductions are taken out. At least you got 100%. You mean most workers don't get paid everything? I asked with amazement. Heavens no, said Rich Dad. The government takes its share first. How do they do that? I asked. Taxes, said Rich Dad. You're taxed when you earn. You're taxed when you spend, and you're taxed when you save. You're taxed when you die. Why do people let the government do that to them? The rich don't, said Rich Dad with a smile. The poor and the middle class do. I bet you that I earn more than your dad, yet he pays more in taxes. How can that be? I asked. At my age, it made no sense to me. Why would someone let the government do that to them? Rich Dad rocked slowly and silently in his chair, just looking at me. Ready to learn? He asked. I nodded, my head slowly. As I said, there is a lot to learn. Learning how to have money work for you is a lifetime of study. Most people go to college for 4 years, and their education ends. I already know that my study of money will continue over my lifetime, simply because the more I found out, the more I found out I need to know. Most people never study the subject. They go to work, get their paycheck, balance their checkbooks, and that's it. Then they wonder why they have money problems. They think that more money will solve the problem and don't realize that it's their lack of financial education that's the problem. So my dad has tax problems because he doesn't understand money? I asked, confused. Look, said Rich Dad, taxes are just one small section of learning of how to have money work for you. Today, I just wanted to find out if you still have the passion to learn about money. Most people don't. Okay. Blurb time. Taxes, taxes, taxes. As government expands and they need more and more money, the only place to get it is the middle class. That means more workers. Every government now favors the professional investor and business owners. Workers pay tax, investors and business owners pay very little tax. If they use the tax law as intended, as a tool to build the economy. Okay, back to it. They want to go to school, learn a profession, and have fun at their work, and earn lots of money. One day they wake up with big money problems, and then they can't stop working. That's the price of only knowing how to work for money instead of studying how to have money work for you. So, do you still have the passion to learn? Asked Rich Dad. I nodded my head. Good, said Rich Dad. Now, get back to work. This time, I will pay you nothing. What? I asked in amazement. You heard me, nothing. You will work the same 3 hours every Saturday, but this time you will not be paid 10 cents per hour. You said you want to learn, not to work for money, so I'm not going to pay you anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've already had this conversation with Mike, and he's already working, dusting and stacking canned goods for free. You'd better hurry and get back there. That's not fair, I shouted. You've got to pay me something. You said you want to learn. If you didn't learn this now, you'll grow up to be like those 2 women and the older man sitting in my living room. working for money and hoping I don't fire them. Or, like your dad, earning lots of money only to be in debt up to his eyeballs, hoping more money will solve his problem. If that's what you want, I'll go back to the original deal of 10 cents an hour. Or you can do what most adults do. Complain that there's not enough pay, quit, and go looking for another job. But what do? I asked. Rich Dad tapped me on the head. Use this, he said. If you use it well, you will soon thank me for giving you an opportunity, and you will grow into a rich man. I stood there, still not believing what a raw deal I was handed. I came to ask for a raise, and somehow I ended up working for nothing. Rich Dad tapped me on the head again and said, use this. Now get out of here and get back to work. Lesson number 1. The rich don't work for money. I didn't tell my poor dad I wasn't being paid. He wouldn't have understood. And I didn't want to try to explain something I didn't understand myself. For 3 more weeks, Mike and I worked 3 hours every Saturday for nothing. The work didn't bother me, and the routine got easier, but it was still missing the baseball games and not being able to afford to buy a few comics that got to me. Rich Dad stopped by at noon on the 3rd week. We had his truck pull up into the parking lot and sputter when the engine was turned off. He entered the store and greeted Miss Martin with a hug. After finding out how things were going in the store, he reached into the ice cream freezer, pulled out 2 bars, paid for them, and signaled to Mike and me. Let's go for a walk, boys. We crossed the street, dodging a few cars, and walked across a large grassy field where a few adults were playing softball. Sitting down at a lone picnic table, he handed Mike and me the treats. How's it going, boys? Okay, Mike said. I nodded in agreement. Learn anything yet? Rich Dad asked. Mike and I looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, and shook our heads in unison. Avoiding one of life's biggest traps. Well, you boys had better start thinking. You're staring at one of life's biggest lessons. If you learn it, you'll enjoy a life of great freedom and security. If you don't, you'll end up like Miss Martin and most of the people playing softball in this park. They work very hard for little money, clinging to the illusion of job security and looking forward to a 3-week vacation each year and maybe a skimpy pension after 45 years of service. If that excites you, I'll give you a raise to 25 cents an hour. But these are good, hard-working people. Are you making fun of them? I demanded. A smile came over Rich Dad's face. Miss Martin is like a mother to me. I would never be cruel. I may sound unkind because I'm doing my best to put something out to the two of you. I want to expand your point of view so you can see something most people never have the benefit of seeing because their vision is too narrow. Most people never see the trap they are in. Mike and I sat there, uncertain of this message. He sounded cruel, and yet we could sense he was trying to drive a point home. With a smile, Rich Dad said, "Doesn't that 25 cents an hour sound good? Doesn't it make your heart beat a little faster?" I shook my head no, but it really did. 25 cents an hour would be big bucks to me. "Okay, I'll pay you $1 an hour," Rich Dad said with a sly grin. Now my heart started to race. My brain was screaming, "Take it, take it." I could not believe what I was hearing. Still, I said nothing. "Okay, $2 an hour." My little brain and my heart nearly exploded. After all, it was 1956, and being paid $2 an hour would have been making me the richest kid in the world. I couldn't imagine earning that kind of money. I wanted to say yes. I wanted the deal. I could picture a new bicycle, a new baseball glove, and the adoration of my friends when I flashed them cash. On top of that, Jimmy and his rich friends would never call me poor again. But somehow, my mouth stayed shut. The ice cream had melted and was running down my hand. Rich Dad was looking at 2 boys staring back at him, eyes wide open and brains empty. He was testing us. He knew there was part of our emotions that wanted to take the deal. He understood that every person has a weak and needy part of their soul that can be bought. And he knew that every individual also had part of their soul that was resilient and could never be bought. It was only a question of which one was stronger. "Okay, $5 an hour. Suddenly I was silent. Something had changed. The offer was too big and ridiculous. Not many grown-ups in 1956 made more than that, but quickly my temptation disappeared, and a calm set in. Slowly I turned to my left to look at Mike. He looked back at me. The part of my soul that was weak and needy was silenced. The part of me that had no price took over. I knew Mike had gotten to that point too. Good, Rich Dad said softly. Most people have a price, and they have a price because of human emotions named fear and greed. First, the fear of being without money motivates us to work hard, and then, once we get that paycheck, greed or desire starts us thinking about all the wonderful things money can buy. The pattern is set. What pattern, I asked. The pattern of get up, go to work, pay bills, get up, go to work, pay bills. People's lives are forever controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Offer them more money and they continue the cycle by increasing their spending. This is what I call the rat race. Is there another way? Mike asked. Yes, said Rich Dad softly, but only a few people find it. In what way is that? Mike asked. That's what I hoped you boys will learn as you work and study with me. That is why I took away all forms of pay. Any hints? Mike asked. We're kind of tired of working hard, especially for nothing. Well, the first step is telling the truth, said Rich Dad. We haven't been lying, I said. I did not say you were lying. I said to tell the truth, Rich Dad retorted. The truth about what? I asked. How you're feeling, Rich Dad said. If you don't have to say it to anyone else, just admit it to yourself. You mean the people in this park, the people who work for you, Miss Martin, they don't do that? I asked. I doubt it, said Rich Dad. Instead, they feel the fear of not having money. They don't confront it logically. They react emotionally instead of using their heads, Rich Dad said. Then, sorry about the siren. Then they get a few bucks in their hands, and again the emotions of joy, desire, and greed take over. And again they react instead of think. So their emotions control their brain, Mike said. That's correct, said Rich Dad. Instead of admitting the truth about how they feel, they react to their feelings and fail to think. They feel the fear, so they go to work, hoping that money will soothe the fear. But it doesn't. It continues to haunt them, and they return to work, hoping again that money will calm their fears, and again it doesn't. Fear keeps them in this trap of working, earning money, hoping the fear will go away. But every day they get up, and that old fear wakes them up. For millions of people, that old fear keeps them awake at night, causing a night of turmoil and worry. So they get up, go to work, hoping that a paycheck will kill that fear gnawing at their soul. Money is running their lives, and they refuse to tell the truth about it. Money is in control of their emotions and their souls. A little blurb before I go to the next page. As the world population ages and more people move towards retirement, it is being reported that the number one fear is tied to money. Nearly 50% of those surveyed fear that they will outlive their money, running out of money in their, quote, golden years. Rich Dad sat quietly letting his words sink in. Mike and I heard what he had said, but didn't fully understood what he was talking about. I just knew that I often wondered why grown-ups hurried off to work. It didn't seem like much fun, and they never looked that happy, but something kept them going. Realizing we had absorbed as much as possible of what he was talking about, Rich Dad said, I want you boys to avoid that trap. That is really what I want to teach you. Not just to be rich, because being rich does not solve the problem. It doesn't? I asked him, surprised. No, it doesn't. Let me explain the other emotion, desire. Some call it greed, but I prefer desire. It's perfectly normal to desire something better, prettier, more fun, or exciting. Some people also work for money because of desire. They desire money for the joy they think it can buy, But the joy that money brings is often short-lived, and they soon need more money for more joy, more pleasure, more comfort, and more security. So they keep working, thinking money will soothe their souls that are troubled by fear and desire. But money can't do that. Even rich people do this? Mike asked. Rich people included, said Rich Dad. In fact, the reason many rich people are rich isn't because of desire, but because of fear. They believe that money can eliminate the fear of being poor, so they amass tons of it, only to find the fear gets worse. Now they fear losing the money. I have friends who keep working even though they have plenty. I know people who have millions who are more afraid now than when they were poor. They're terrified of losing it all. The fear that drove them to get rich got worse. That weak and needy part of their soul is actually screaming louder. They don't want to lose the big houses, the cars, and the high life money has bought them. They worry about their friends would say if they lost all their money. Many are emotionally desperate and neurotic, although they look rich and have more money. So is a poor man happier? I asked. No, I don't think so, replied Rich Dad. The avoidance of money is just as psychotic as being attached to money. As, if on cue, the town derelict went past our table, stopping by the large rubbish can and rummaging around. The three of us watched him with great interest. Then, before we probably would have just ignored him, Rich Dad pulled out $1 out of his wallet and gestured it to the older man. Seeing the money, the derelict came over immediately, took the bill, thanked Rich Dad profusely, and hurried off, ecstatic with his good fortune. He's not much different than most of my employees, said Rich Dad. I've met so many people who say, "Oh, I'm not interested in money," yet they'll work at a job for 8 hours a day. That's a denial of the truth. If they weren't interested in money, then why are they working? What kind of thinking is probably more psychotic than a person who hoards money? As I sat there listening to my Rich Dad, my mind flashed back to the countless times my own dad had said, "I'm not interested in money." He said those words often. He also covered himself by always saying, "I work because I love my job." So, what do we do? I asked. Not work for money until all traces of fear and greed are gone? No, that would be a waste of time, said Rich Dad. Emotions are what make us humans. The word emotion stands for energy and motion. Be truthful about your emotions and use your mind and emotions in your favor, not against yourself. Whoa, said Mike. Don't worry about what I just said. It will make more sense in years to come. Just be an observer, not a reactor, to your emotions. Most people do not know that it's their emotions that are doing the thinking. Your emotions are your emotions, but you have got to learn to do your own thinking. Can you give me an example? I asked. Sure, Rich Dad replied. When a person says, "I need to find a job," it's most likely an emotion doing the thinking. Fear of not having money generates that thought. But people do need money if they have bills to pay, I said. Sure they do, smiled Rich Dad. All I'm saying is that it's fear that's all too often doing the thinking. I don't understand, said Mike. For example, said Rich Dad, if the fear of not having enough money arises, instead of immediately running out to get a job, they might instead ask themselves this question. Will a job be the best solution to this fear over the long run? In my opinion, the answer is no. A job is a really short-term solution to a long-term problem. But my dad is always saying, stay in school and get good grades so you can find a safe and secure job, I interjected, somewhat confused. Yes, I understand he says that, said Rich Dad, smiling. Most people recommend that, and it's a good path for most people. But people make that recommendation primarily out of fear. You mean my dad says that because he's afraid? Yes, said Rich Dad. He's terrified that you won't earn enough money and won't fit into society. Don't get me wrong, he loves you and wants the best for you. I do believe in education and a job are important, but it won't handle the fear. You see, that same fear that makes him get up in the morning to earn a few bucks is the fear that is causing him to be so fanatical about your going to school. So what do you recommend? I asked. I want to teach you to master the power of money instead of being afraid of it. Blurb time. With the advent of derivatives and an increasingly complex economy, mastering money has become essential to surviving in the world economy. With low interest rates and uncertain stock market, the old adages of saving and investing for the long term make no sense. They don't teach that in school, and if you don't learn it, you become a slave to money. It was finally making sense. He wanted us to widen our views and to see what the Miss Martins of the world couldn't see. He used examples that sounded cruel at the time, but I've never forgotten them. My vision widened that day. I began to see the trap that lay ahead for most people. You see, we're all employees ultimately. We just work at different levels, said Rich Dad. I just want you boys to have a chance to avoid the trap caused by the two emotions, fear and desire. Use them in your favor, not against you. That's what I want to teach you. I'm not interested in just teaching you how to make a pile of money. That wouldn't handle the fear or desire. If you don't first handle fear and desire, and you get rich, you will only be a highly paid slave. So how do we avoid the trap? I asked. The main cause of poverty or financial struggle is fear and ignorance, not the economy or the government or the rich. It's self-inflicted fear and ignorance that keeps people trapped. So you boys go to school and get your college degrees, and I'll teach you how to stay out of the trap. The pieces of the puzzle were appearing. My highly educated dad had a great education and a great career, but school never told him how to handle money or his fear of it. It became clear that I could learn different and important things from two fathers. So, you've been talking about fear of not having money. How does the desire for money affect our thinking? Mike asked. How did you feel when I tempted you with a pay raise? Did you notice your desires rising? We nodded our heads. By not giving into your emotions, you are able to delay your reactions and thinking. That's important. We will always have emotions of fear and greed, and from here on in, it's imperative for you to use those emotions to your advantage, and for the long term, not to let your emotions control your thinking. Most people use fear and greed against themselves. That's the start of ignorance. Most people live their lives chasing paychecks, pay raises, and job security because of the emotions of desire and fear, not really questioning where those emotion-driven thoughts are leading them. It's just like the picture of a donkey dragging a cart with its owner dangling a carrot just in front of its nose. The donkey's owner may be going where he wants to, but the donkey is chasing an illusion. Tomorrow, there will be only another carrot for the donkey. You mean the moment I picture a new baseball glove, candy, and toys, that's like a carrot to a donkey? Mike asked. Yes, and as you get older, your toys will get more expensive. A new car, a new boat, a big house to impress your friends, said Rich Dad with a smile. Fear pushes you out the door, and desire calls to you. That's the trap. So what's the answer? Mike asked. What intensifies fear and desire is ignorance. That is why rich people with lots of money often have more fear the richer they get. Money is the carrot, the illusion. If the donkey could see the whole picture, it might rethink its choice to chase the carrot. Rich Dad went to explain that a human's life is a struggle between ignorance and illumination. He explained that once the person stops searching for information and self-knowledge, ignorance sets in. That struggle is a moment-to-moment decision to learn to open or close one's mind. Look, school is very important. You go to school to learn a skill or profession to become a contributing member of society. Every culture needs teachers, doctors, mechanics, artists, cooks, business people, police officers, firefighters, and soldiers. Schools train them so society can thrive and flourish, said Rich Dad. Unfortunately, for many people, school is the end, not the beginning. There was a long silence. Rich Dad was smiling. I didn't comprehend everything he just said that day, but as with the most great teachers, his words continued to teach us for years. I've been a little cruel today, said Rich Dad. But I want you to always remember this talk. I want you to always to think of Miss Martin. I want you to always remember the donkey. Never forget that fear and desire can lead you into life's biggest trap if you're not aware of them controlling your thinking. To spend your life living in fear, never exploring your dreams, is cruel. To work hard for money, thinking that it'll buy you things that will make you happy, is also cruel. To wake up in the middle of the night, terrified about paying the bills, is a horrible way to live. To live a life dictated by the size of a paycheck is not really living a life. Thinking that a job makes you secure is lying to yourself. That's cruel, and that's the trap I want you to avoid. I see how money runs people's lives. Don't let that happen to you. Please do not let money run your life. A softball rolled under a table. Rich Dad picked it up and threw it back. So what does ignorance have to do with greed and fear? I asked. Because it is ignorance about money that causes so much greed and fear, said Rich Dad. Let me give you some examples. A doctor, wanting more money to better provide for his family, raises his fees. By raising his fees, it makes healthcare more expensive for everyone. It hurts the poor people the most, so they have worse health than those with money. Because the doctor raises their fees, the attorneys raise their fees. Because the attorneys' fees have gone up, school teachers want to raise, which raise our taxes, and on and on and on. Soon, there will be such a horrifying gap between the rich and the poor that chaos will break out and another great civilization will collapse. History proves that great civilizations collapse when the gap between the haves and the have-nots is too great. Sadly, America is on the same course because we haven't learned from history. We only memorize historical dates and names, not the lesson. Aren't prices supposed to go up? I asked him. In an educated society with a well-run government, prices should actually come down. Of course, that is often only true in theory. Prices go up because of greed and fear caused by ignorance. If schools taught people about money, there would be more money and lower prices. But schools focus only on teaching people to work for money, not to harness money's power. But don't we have business schools? Mike asked. And haven't you encouraged me to go for my MBA? Yes, said Rich Dad. But all too often, business schools train employees to become sophisticated bean counters. Heaven forbid a bean counter takes over a business. All they do is look at the numbers, fire people, and kill the business. I know this because I hire bean counters. All they think about is cutting costs and raising prices, which cause more problems. Bean counting is important. I wish more people knew it. But it, too, is not the whole picture, added Rich Dad angrily. So, is there an answer? Asked Mike. Yes, said Rich Dad. Learn to use your emotions to think, not to think with your emotions. When you boys master your emotions by agreeing to work for free, I knew there was hope. When you again resisted your emotions when I tempted you with more money, you were again learning to think in spite of being emotionally charged. That is the first step. Why is that step so important? I asked. Well, that's up to you to find out. If you want to learn, I'll take you boys into the briar patch, a place almost everyone avoids. If you go with me, you'll let go of the idea of working for money and instead learn to have money work for you. And what will we get if we go with you? What if we agree to learn from you? What will we get? I asked. The same thing that Brer Rabbit got, said Rich Dad, referring to the classic children's story. Is there a briar patch? I asked. Yes, said Rich Dad. The briar patch is our fear and greed. Confronting fear, weaknesses, and neediness by choosing our own thoughts is the way out. Choosing our thoughts? Mike asked, puzzled. Yes, choosing what we think rather than reacting to our emotions. Instead of just getting up and going to work because of not having the money to pay our bills is scaring you, ask yourself, is working harder at the best solution? Oh, sorry. Let me reread that paragraph. Yes, choosing what we think rather than reacting to our own emotions. Instead of just getting up and going to work because not having the money to pay the bills is scaring you, ask yourself, is working harder at this the best solution to this problem? Most people are too afraid to rationally think about things through. and instead run out the door to a job they hate. The tar baby is in control. That's what I mean by choosing your thoughts. And how do we do that? Mike asked. That's what I will teach you. I'll teach you to have a choice of thoughts rather than a knee-jerk reaction, like gulping down your morning coffee and running out the door. Remember what I said before. A job is only a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Most people only have one problem in mind in this short term. It's the bills at the end of the month, the tar baby. The money controls their lives, or should I say, fear and ignorance about money controls it. So they do as their parents did, to get up every day, go to work for money, not taking the time to ask the question, is there another way? Their emotions now control their thinking, not their heads. Can you tell the difference between emotions thinking and the head thinking? Mike asked. Oh yes, I hear it all the time, said Rich Dad. I hear things like, well, everyone has to work, or the rich are crooks, or I'll get another job, I deserve this raise. You can't push me around, or I like this job because it's secure. No one asks, is there something I'm missing here? Which would break through the emotional thought and give you time to think clearly. As we headed back to the store, Rich Dad explained that the rich really did make money. They did not work for it. He went on to explain that when Mike and I were casting 5-cent pieces out of the lead, thinking we were making money, we were very close to thinking the way the rich think. The problem was that creating money is legal for the government and banks to do, but illegal for us to do. There are legal ways to create money from nothing, he told us. Rich Dad went on to explain that rich know that money is an illusion, truly like the carrot for the donkey. It's only out of fear and greed that the illusion of money is held together by billions of people who believe that money is real. It is not. Money is really made up. It is only because of the illusion of confidence and the ignorance of the masses that this house of cards stands. He talked about the gold standard that America was on, and that each dollar bill was actually a silver certificate. What concerned him was a rumor that we would someday go off the gold standard and our dollars would no longer be backed by something tangible. If that happens, boys, all hell will break loose. The poor, the middle class, and the ignorant will have their lives ruined simply because they will continue to believe that money is real and that company they work for, or the government, will look after them. We really did not understand what he was saying that day, but over the years it made more and more sense. Seeing what others miss. Okay, 3 more pages. It's already 45 minutes. Oh my God. As he climbed into his pickup truck outside his convenience store, Rich Dad said, "Keep working, boys, but the sooner you forget about needing a paycheck, the easier your adult life will be. Keep using your brain, work for free, and soon your mind will show you ways of making money far beyond what I could ever pay you. You will see things that other people will never see. Most people never see these opportunities because they're looking for money and security, so that's all they get. The moment you see one opportunity, you'll see them for the rest of your life. The moment you do that, I'll teach you something else. Learn this, and you will avoid one of life's biggest traps." Mike and I picked up our things from the store and waved goodbye to Miss Martin. We went back to the park, to the same picnic bench, and spent several more hours thinking and talking. We spent the next week at school thinking and talking too. For 2 more weeks we kept thinking, talking, and working for free. At the end of the second Saturday, I was saying goodbye to Miss Martin and looking at the comic book stand with a longing gaze. The hard thing about not even getting 30 cents every Saturday was that I didn't have any money to buy comic books. Suddenly, as Miss Martin said goodbye to Mike and me, I saw her do something I'd never seen her do before. Miss Martin was cutting the front page of the comic book in half. She kept the top half of the comic book cover and threw the rest of the book into a large cardboard box. When I asked her what she did with the comic books, she said, "I threw them away. I give the top half of the cover back to the comic book distributor for credit when he brings in new comics. He's coming in an hour." Mike and I waited for an hour. Soon the distributor arrived, and I asked him, if we could have the comic books. To my delight, he said, "You can have them if you work for the store and do not resell them." Remember our old business partnership? Well, Mike and I revived it. Using a spare room in Mike's basement, we began piling hundreds of comic books in that room. Soon our comic book library was open to the public. We hired Mike's younger sister, who loved to study, to be the head librarian. She charged each child 10 cents admission to the library, which was open from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. every day after school. The customers, the children of the neighborhood, could read as many comics as they wanted for 2 hours. It was a bargain for them, since a comic cost 10 cents each, and they could read 5 or 6 in 2 hours. Mike's sister would check the kids as they left to make sure they weren't borrowing any comic books. She also kept the books, logging in how many kids showed up each day, who they were, and any comments they might have had. Mike and I averaged $9.50 per week over a 3-month period. We paid his sister $1 a week and allowed her to read the comics for free, which she rarely did since she was always studying. Mike and I kept our agreement by working in the store every Saturday and collecting all the comic books from the different stores. We kept our agreement to the distributor by not selling any of the comic books. We burned them once they got too tattered. We tried opening a branch office, but we could never quite find someone as trustworthy as dedicated as Mike's sister. At an early age, we found out how hard it was to find good staff. 3 months after the library first opened, a fight broke out in the room. Some bullies from another neighborhood pushed their way in, and Mike's dad suggested we shut down the business. So our comic book business was shut down, and we stopped working on Saturdays at the convenience store. But Rich Dad was excited because he had new things he wanted us to teach. He was happy because we learned our first lesson so well. We learned to make money work for us. Not getting paid for our work at the store, we were forced to use our imaginations to identify an opportunity to make money. By starting our own business, the comic book library, we were in the control of our own finances, not dependent on an employer. The best part was that our business generated money for us. Even when we weren't physically there, our money worked for us. Instead of paying us money, Rich Dad had given us something so much more.